Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 25th day of October. Got a lot I want to talk about tonight. Mattress Mac, I didn't even put that in the title, had so much to talk about. Has made the biggest, could be the biggest winning ever if the Houston Astros win the World Series. 75 million. I'll talk about that story. Also, Frank Clark suspension going back from last year. Those two arrests for those gun charges have caught up with him. He's going to get a suspension by the league. I'll give you my Power Five and more here on Sports Scope. Okay. Let's talk about last night. Let's just start with the Patriots. They give up 33 points on defense, and I want to say when I watch games like this, you look at the Bears' offensive line, you look at Bill Belichick, and you look at the fact that this team is having problems with mobile quarterbacks. And I mean having problems. I mean they are having problems, not unless it's a unbelievable windstorm or rainstorm or something like that of that nature. There seems to be a thing, Justin Fields last night looked like he was an all-world player. 13 to 21, 179 yards, one touchdown, one pick, but he ran for 82 yards and a touchdown. And the Patriot defense at home gave up 33 points. Okay. And you say, well, what's so big issue there? Well, here's the thing, guys. They gave up 37 points to Lamar Jackson led Baltimore Raven team just a few weeks ago. In the playoffs last year, they gave up 47 points to a Josh Allen-led Buffalo team in the playoffs last year. The last regular season game to Josh Allen-led team, they gave up 33 more points. And they don't have enough speed at linebacker to stay with these mobile quarterbacks, And Keith Angle, who I'm trying to get on the program tomorrow, told me a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to ask him about this if he can make it. He hasn't got back to me. He's very busy. He's working. He does other shows as well. But I'm going to ask Keith Angle what he said the other day about Bill Belichick taking back the drafting of players. This team does not have enough speed to cover these mobile quarterbacks. They just do not have the speed to the corners. They can't seal the edge. They simply don't have the talent to do it. They can have these plays perfectly defended. But if you can't beat that quarterback, who is the odd man out when it comes to the rushing game, because it's 11 on 11, then you're going to have a problem. And obviously, again, 33 last night, 37 the Lamar Jackson-led team, 47 in the playoffs to Josh Allen, and 33 to Josh Allen at the end of the regular season. That was also in New England, folks. So this team they've gotten better at corner, but they don't have the linebackers. They don't have the speed on the outside. They're a long ways away from their other general manager they had in the early 2000s. And really, Belichick has kind of pushed everybody out. He's gotten too much power. He's pushed a lot of the guys out. And the fact that they've won so much that Robert Kraft just says, hey, do your thing. Do your thing. But they don't have guys like Willie McGinnis, Teddy Bruschi, a safety who can cover sideline to sideline and can hit like a linebacker. Laura Malloy, Pickles, back in the early 2000s, those type of players, and it's just becoming a thing, And if he continues to want to just totally be in charge of the personnel issue, then, I think Belichick should retire. I really do, because it's turning into a thing. And then on top of all that, I'm looking at Mac Jones. First game back, he gets benched. They bring in Bailey Zappi. They get a little bit of a spark there. They take a 14-10 lead. And then the Bears score 23 unanswered points. The Bears, a team with the worst offensive line, just about in the league, but they have such a mobile quarterback, and a team that has one of the worst run defenses. But they played well last night in Foxborough. I was really surprised, but it just seems like that they are a team that it just don't have that speed on the outside like you think that they would have, compared to, Teddy Bruschi, Laura Malloy, Willie McGinn. Those guys are really good athletes, but they simply don't have it right now. And there was a stat here. Mac Jones is now 2-7 in his last 9 games as a starter. So he's taken a step back. You want to praise the team, but when you read that and you look at that, here's the thing. They're going to have to deal with Josh Allen from now on. Zach Wilson's a pretty fast guy. You look at, and by the way, I want to say they're 0-3 against Miami the last 3 games. Remember, they lost the opener to Rodney Harrison, Pickle says. They lost the opener to Miami. They still got Zach Wilson. That's no longer a give me. I mean, I know they've blown out the Jets twice, but last night, folks, they had a rookie head coach, a young quarterback. He usually gobbles those guys up, but they didn't even look close to getting a glove on Justin Fields. 87 yards rushing. Nobody's close to him. They're running the ball well because they're overcommitting to chasing Justin Fields. Their team speed is just not what it was. And if that's true, what Keith is saying is he's pushing everybody out on the personnel department. I think it was Bill Polian, I want to say. No, it wasn't Bill Polian. It was they had two general managers there. They had 2 general managers around the same time. Bill Polian was the Colts, and they had another guy that was really good, but he ended up going to the Chiefs. But my thing is, if they're going to have they're going to have some money next year, they need to go after a Roquan Smith. Now the Bears are going to have over $100 million. They're going to have more money than anybody in the league next year. They need to go all offensive line and continue to work on Fields' development. And I would go ahead and re-sign Roquan. But if you can't, a team like New England should go after him. They should go after maybe a Darius Leonard, somebody like that. If the Colts don't want him, they need speed at that line. They need 2 linebackers, 1 for each side, because you got to play Josh Allen for the next few years. And, it's just a weird situation. The way that this is playing out. I didn't expect this, man. I really didn't. And I don't think it's an overreaction for the fact that Jones, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. Now, Bill Belichick said that if Jones is healthy, that he'll play. So it looks like the Zappi thing is not quite it's not quite what we thought it was. The hype isn't. But we'll see. But they're going to have that problem. They're going to have to simply upgrade that position, and that's something they're going to have to do in the offseason. That will get all of my – basically, that was what I would be doing in free agency. That's what I would be doing in the draft, is getting that. Not unless they're not really satisfied with Zappi and Jones. Now, of course, they still got to play these guys. But these mobile quarterbacks and these offenses, if you think about it, There's more and more teams starting to do this sort of thing in the league with this run pass option. They would have problems right now with the Philadelphia, even with the passing ability or lack thereof of a Jalen Hurts. So it's just not the basic drop back quarterback there. But anyway, so those are my observations as far as the Bears are concerned. It's just one game. You look at how slow the New England looked. That same Bears team was beaten 27-10 by the Packers, a team who now has looked slow as well on defense. That tells you how bad at times New England can look when they're chasing these mobile quarterbacks. Okay. All righty then. So the New York teams are playing well. The Giants pulled off a win. Now, I thought that they would lose you can see the talent with Jacksonville on the outside. You could see the talent with their quarterback, by the way, with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, by the way. I'll get to that story. James Robertson was traded for nothing, by the way, to the Jets. But we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But the Giants are now 6-1. And they have Saquon Barkley is number 2 in the league in rushing. He's on a contract year. And now you've got Daniel Jones. Remember, this team did not pick up that 5th-year option. So he is on his 4th year, 3rd head coach, I want to say. Brian DeBall right now probably be coach of the year. Their resume speaks for itself. They beat 2 division leaders right now. They beat Tennessee and they beat Baltimore. They beat Baltimore. Okay. And of course, they held Jacksonville out of the inside. They were inside the 5 last play of the game. 7 points allowed on defense, 7th in points allowed on defense. So they're playing really good on both sides of the ball. Looks like they've hit on their draft picks. But Daniel Jones, he's 14th in QBR. He's got 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. This kind of feels like Jalen Hurts with the a little bit with the Philadelphia Eagles, another NFC East team, ironically. But Spot Track put this out here, and I thought this was interesting, going back to Daniel Jones, because what do you do if they go to the playoffs and win a game? So Spot Track says the Giants decline Daniel Jones' 5th-year option for 2023, which is set at $22.3 million. He's now likely playing himself into a franchise tag destination, which would be $31 million next year. Okay. And this is what I've been telling you guys about for the longest, that teams need to adapt and not go with the Joneses. Okay. If you give Daniel Jones $31 million, I just told you he's a middle-of-the-road quarterback. This team was over the cap when Joe Sheehan and Brian DeBall, assistant general manager from the Buffalo Bills and offensive coordinator for both hired in a package deal to come to the Giants here, right? Can you imagine? So they just get out of harm's way. They had to let Bradbury go, one of their best corners, go because he was a cap casualty, and he goes to the Eagles, who are now playing superb football right now. He's playing alongside with Darius Slay. And then you read this out of Spot Track here, that Daniel Jones would be a $31 million franchise hit. And I thought to myself, technically, if you don't do anything and let him go as a free agent, who are you bidding against? Who's going to pay him $31 million? Who's going to pay Daniel Jones? Do you really think, and the Washington football team, Commanders or whatever, they may be dumb enough to do that. The Colts may be crazy enough to do that. I doubt it. With all the crazy mistakes the Colts have made, we talked about the Colts last night. They're benching Matt Ryan, But I just could not imagine anybody else doing that. So my point is, most of these teams are bidding against themselves. This is supposed to be a pretty quarterback-heavy draft. There's a good possibility that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out there on the market. Okay. If I'm the Giants, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Well, let's just say that they make the playoffs as a wild card team, and they win a game. If I'm the Giants, I'll say I'll offer this guy 2 to 3 years at $7 to $15 million with incentives up to $15 million to come play for me. But we're keeping you, this is what I'm going to say, we're going to keep you on around that 4th-year option money. Now, if you want to go out and test free agency or be a backup somewhere, go right ahead. If you want to make more money and go to an awful team, you go right ahead. But do you want to stay here and not move? Now, this is in New Jersey and New York. I get that. But a lot of what the recipe for these guys winning is the fact that these quarterbacks are on really good rookie contract-friendly contract. So there's really not that many quarterbacks in this league worth $30 million. Okay. Joe Burrow, and I'm going to get to Joe Burrow's story here in a minute. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, that's about it for right now. The way Rodgers is playing, he's getting close to retirement. He should retire. I think Brady should retire. Those guys in the past, yes. Brady, you can make him 25 with incentives. I think that's about what he is. Brady knows about that 12.6%. He knows about that. He's always taken less. He's played as a team guy, But I just don't make that mistake of paying this guy that much money. Pickle says, James Robertson, game-saving tackle. Yeah, Giants can win the division. Yeah, they're only one game out. Now, they've got a division loss to Dallas. They have that division loss to Dallas, but they a lot of these, they feel like fluke wins, but they do make good second-half adjustments. That's coaching. And they are running the ball really well. We've seen what teams who do not run the ball well, what happens with them. Look at Tampa. Look at Tampa. They are a losing record right now. It should be 2-5. Tampa should be 2-5. So you still need that kind of balance. And the Jets. So let's stay in the city of New York. The Jets are winning despite Zach Wilson. The Jets are winning despite of Zach Wilson. And I've seen him make some good throws. But you really got to look at the guy's stats here. You got to really start to look at what he's putting up here. This is CBS. Okay. Zach Wilson ranks since week 4. They've got 4 wins. That's tied for first. He's got 1 passing touchdown. That's tied for 33rd. He's 19th in passing yards. And his rating is 73.6 passer rating. That's 28th out of 32 quarterbacks. They're winning despite Zach Wilson. Now, he's really young. I said at the beginning of the year, I thought that Zach should be, you really want to grade him on that last 4 to 6 games of the season. They just happen to be winning now. Joe Douglas is hitting a bunch of home runs, including one right now. So they go up to Denver, and I said if they go up to Denver and Russell Wilson is a late scratch, which he was, and I put a few dollars down on the Jets, and they won -1.5. I think he could beat this Ripken guy, and he did. So, and then Breece Hall, who's killing it as a rookie. That's another hit by Joe Douglas. Michael Carter, that's your 1-2 punch. Joe Douglas immediately wanted to take care of Breece Hall, who tore his ACL in that game. He wanted to get that shirt up. So he makes a trade, which I don't know why Jacksonville done this, because James Robertson is his third-year guy. You always want 2 running backs. When you are dealing with a young quarterback, you want extra protection, you want good tight ends, and you want good running backs. You get them in the draft. James Robertson's 1,000-yard guy. Undrafted free agent. I don't know what Jacksonville was thinking. Either way, it was one man's trash is another team's treasure, right, Pickles? So they make this trade and they get James Robertson. Okay. And I want to see, I did do a screenshot here. Okay. Rich Kamani Simini, I think that's his name. He is a beat reporter for the Jets. He says, here's how the Robertson trade compensation will work. The Jets have 2 6th-round picks, folks. 6th-round picks in 23 draft, acquired Houston pick for Blake Cashman. Jaguars get the higher pick, which means probably the Houston pick, if it goes to the 5th rounder. If James Robertson rushes for more than 260 more yards this year, which that may happen. As of right now, you can say, this is what this reporter said, Joe Douglas traded an injury-prone backup linebacker for a former 1,000-yard rusher who figures to be a consistent contributor. Seems like a good value to me. Yeah, I thought to myself, so you're trading this guy, a 6th rounder, plus this linebacker to Jacksonville, who needs help in defense. So, like Tony, like Frank said to Tony Montana in the classic movie Scarface, you stole your deal with Sosa. Stole it. This guy's a 3rd-year player. So the Jets are thinking playoffs. The Jets are thinking, we want to keep Woody Johnson happy, and we want to hide Zach Wilson's inefficiencies early on so far in this. Zach Wilson got 1 touchdown in 4 games, 1 passing touchdown. Now, he caught one, but the teams play better when he's there. He is a burst of energy on both sides of the ball. They seem to have some good chemistry other than Elijah Moore, which they may trade him at some point, their 2nd-year wide receiver. So you look at this roster and what they're doing, and then you look at what New England's doing, and you got to be a little bit concerned if you're a Patriot fan. But that was a well of a deal to get James Robertson at that amount of money. And he's a better between what people aren't saying about ETN is, and I like ETN. I really like ETN. He's fast, man. He can catch that ball, but he does fumble. And he has had the ball knocked out of his hand, and he has dropped some big passes. He's trying to do too much. He got hurt in training camp last year. He's still getting used to NFL speed. We're only, 6-7 games into the season. He's a 2nd-year guy, but he's only played this season. He got hurt in training camp last year. And I thought he was kind of a high pick. I think ETN was like a late first round pick by Urban Meyer and Jacksonville. So this Jets team is on a little bit of a streak here. But you look at the fact that you've got Zach Wilson, he's on a rookie contract here, and you've got this speed at running back, and then you've got so much luxury between Corey Davis and your rookie Garrett Wilson there and they could probably use another tight end there. And I think Very Tucker, that offensive lineman, got hurt. But you could probably use another tight end there. And then you've got Elijah, Moore, complaining about his amount of touches. But if I'm Elijah Moore, I'm just laying low because I know Corey Davis gets hurt every year. This guy's had a hamstring injury with Tennessee. And that's why I didn't lose any sleep. When Tennessee let him walk, I said, let him and Jonnu Smith walk. And I was dead bang right about Jonnu Smith. And for the most part, I've been right about Corey Davis, who's often injured with a hamstring injury. He's having a good year now. But you can't try. And plus, he was paid a fortune, guys. But you got to be happy if you're a Jets fan. You have a few more years to think about it. If you're winning, all that means no, never mind. But if you're a Giants fan, you don't. If the Giants make the playoffs and win a game, you might want to think about offering a reasonable lowball offer to a Daniel Jones, a $7 to $15 million with incentives, and you let Barkley walk. You let these running backs walk because you can get a James Robertson in the draft. You can get an ETN in the draft, and you let him walk. Trust me, let him walk. Okay. All righty then. So I guess that covers everybody. So let's go over the Power 5 this week. Buffalo had a bye week, and they're still second. And think about how good this is. You have a bye week. There's only 4 teams that had a bye week. And they're still second. They lead the NFL in total yards. How was that even possible with KC playing? But they lead the NFL in total yards. Buffalo's my number 1 team. And they're second in points allowed. The second scoring points. They still have the best defense in yards average. And plus, they're going to get Tre'Davious White back perhaps this week. That's their cornerback who got hurt Thanksgiving last year, tore his ACL. Okay. My number 2 team has moved up. Okay. I'm sorry, Philadelphia. I know you're out next week. This past week, you don't have a loss. But today, after what I seen Sunday with Kansas City, you would be underdogs against Kansas City. No offense. Just calling it like I see it. Okay. Kansas City's my number 2 team. Golly, they put 44 points on 49ers, who had the number 1 defense in many categories coming into that game with Nick Bosa back at San Francisco. And now Mecole Hardman has 3 touchdowns in that game. And I mentioned this Isaiah Pacheco guy who looks like he was shot out of a cannon. Juju Smith-Schuster is starting to fill in quite nicely. The run defense is still one of the better top 5 run defense. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball. They had some bad news, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, but they're my number 2 team. And number 3, of course, Philadelphia. Philadelphia, still the best offensive line in football. Still got the bet 1-2 tandem there. We talked about this now, actually, Darius Slay and, of course, Bradbury. And they're relatively healthy coming into their bye week from last week. They're going to run roughshod on some people. The Giants are going to give them some pushback. And Dallas looked good in their game coming back. Okay. Number 4, speaking of the devil, Dallas. Dallas, they played one of the best offensive teams in football, top 5 offensive team, one of the better offensive lines in football off of a bye week. And they only gave up 6 points. They gave up 6 points to Detroit. You know, Dak looked a little shaky earlier, but they had 27 carries by their running backs, which means they're listening. Now, that's just this week. That's just this week. But they seem to be listening and paying attention, Keelan Moore, to the film. They don't have to listen to me or anybody outside, or just watch the game film. If you stick with the running game, you will be fine in Dallas. If you stick with the running game, you will be fine. If you cannot run the ball early, try other ways to run the ball, Dallas. You have one of the best pass rushes in football. You have one of the best defensive players, a potential defensive player of the year, in Michael Parsons in football. You're just now getting Michael Gallup back. He's 3 games in now. You're just now getting your starting quarterback back. You're just now getting your starting franchise tag tight end back. And Dalton Schultz. So you're getting pushed there. They're 5-2. I got them number 4 in the league. Okay. And then at number 5, I've got the Giants winning again without 3 wide receivers on the road. I mentioned the 10-point comeback against Baltimore. Brian DeBall, again, easily coach of the year. Barkley, second in the NFL in rushing. Plus, you know, they beat Tennessee and Baltimore, teams that simply lead their division. They have a better resume than the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry, Viking fans. Pickle says Zeke and Pollard played well. So let's go over it again. Number 5, the Giants. Number 4, Dallas. Number 3, Philadelphia. 3 NFC East teams. Get out of here. Number 2 and 1, of course, Kansas City, Buffalo. You know, that may change. I may actually go back to Cincinnati here in a minute. I'm going to get on to Cincinnati, but first, let me take a minute. We'll go to a quick commercial break. I'll be back in a minute and 19 seconds, folks. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsScope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsScope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Right now, I'm back live here. Okay. Cincinnati's surging. Now, they're 4-3. They're even with Baltimore. Of course, Baltimore beat them. So now, but they're still tied at 4-3 record-wise. Joe Burrow, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, quarterback rating of 138.2. And he ran 20 yards and another touchdown. He set it on fire. Joe Burrow, probably the quarterback of the week. And here's another crazy stat for you folks. Their defense is unbelievable. The Bengals are the first team since 1950 to not allow an offensive touchdown in the second half of the first 7 games, according to Elias Sports. The Bengals are the first team since 1950 to not allow an offensive touchdown in the second half of their first 7 games. That goes to this coach here, this defensive coordinator that I've been telling, Lou and Rumo, this guy may get head coaching job offers. I hope he doesn't. You kind of like to see what this Bengal team can do. Mind you, this is only year 3 for Joe Burrow. So next year, I have my thing about picking teams who lose Super Bowls not to make it back the next year. Only team that has done it since the salary cap was implemented in 1994 was the New England Patriots. They don't have that kind of coaching. They've got the personnel, but they don't have that kind of coaching. So, and you got to watch out for Aramo, the defensive coordinator, for getting potential head coaching jobs. But to do that on an approved Atlanta defense, they are one of those teams. They're going to be surging. You look at a Joe Burrow. Remember, he had his appendix taken out. That's why. And also, there's another stat on Burrow, too. I want to make sure that I get this right. Joe Burrow has been going off since a rough week 1 start. He has 2 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions in week 1. Since week 1, 13 passing touchdowns and 1 pick. He's playing out of his mind. He's getting used to that offensive line. He had his appendix taken out over the summer. He missed most of training camp, and now they're back. And now Baltimore better be very fortunate that they scored there and made the calls that they made, or they would be running off with this division. I think they'll get it back together. I do think that they will eventually catch Baltimore. They play Baltimore later on at the end of the season, which could be an excellent game. They've got to play at Cleveland on Monday night, Halloween night, less than a week. They're going to beat Cleveland. Then they got Carolina. They got the bye week. And then they play at Pittsburgh, at Tennessee, Kansas City, Cleveland, Tampa, at New England. They'll destroy New England. But they do have the Bills in Baltimore to end the season. So that is going to be an interesting race to watch, these two teams. Now, Baltimore, they've got to play Tampa Thursday. I think they'll beat Tampa Thursday because I have no faith in this Tampa team. But Baltimore also has to play Cleveland when Deshaun Watson gets back. Different team, mark my word, on the 18th. And then they got to play Pittsburgh and at Cincinnati. We'll see how all this plays out. It's going to be interesting. But Baltimore may have an easier route getting there. But we'll see. We'll see. Baltimore's also should have won a few more games, okay? They very much could have lost that game to Cincinnati and had 4 losses themselves. It's going to be an interesting race to keep up with. But I think that you got to look out because here come the Cincinnati Bengals. On the Cincinnati, here comes Cincinnati, if you ask me. Okay, other news and notes. A little bit of bad news for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I've talked about this before, about the entitlement of these athletes when we talked about Devontae Adams pushing down the cameraman, walking in the other direction because he lost the game. That arrogance, that sense of entitlement. There was reports and a little bit of a video. It was kind of blurry of a Alabama football player, receiver, smacking a girl in the back of the head after the Tennessee lost in the college game here. Frank Clark, defensive end. We talked about this when it first happened last year. Yes, last year, Frank Clark was pulled over for having guns in his car in March of last year. Okay. And let me make sure I got this right because you can't make this stuff up. So this is some bad news on these guys. But Frank Clark, this is Adam Thutcher. This is a Kansas City chief reporter. Kansas City, Frank Clark has been suspended by the NFL 2 games for violation of the NFL's personal conduct policies. But he has been suspended for 2 different incidents in March and June of 2021. Both, he pleaded no contest. He had some probation and some community service. But my point is, he had guns, and he was pulled over for not having a tag on his car with a visible gun. That tells you about that sense of entitlement, that I'm above the law mentality. So you get pulled over. This is from Bleacher Report. Kansas City Chiefs defensive end Frank Clark was sentenced to a 1-year probation, 40 hours community service Thursday. Played no contest on 2 counts, two different incidents of having assault weapon. According to Associated Press, he will need to show proof he completed the sentence in court in 2023. Noted that it stems from multiple incidents back in 2021. The first came when he was arrested in March of that year, when the police discovered 2 loaded firearms when his car was pulled over for did not have a license plate. Why would you have guns showing visibly in your car without a license plate? That's how, and you say, nah, they're just stupid kids. No, they're arrogant. They think that the world revolves around them. That's that ego. And we as society, me as a guy that talks this stuff daily, it's just that sense of entitlement, like nothing, the rules do not apply to me. The rules do not, it's just so stupid, you know? But it's 2 games. It's 2 games. Now, they've got a pretty good defense. I've talked good of this team. Chris Jones is a more valuable player than Frank Clark. I like the defensive end they got out of Purdue. He seemed to be a steal in the draft this past year. But this will help teams like Tennessee. The Chiefs are on a bye this week. Clark will miss the next 2 games in Week 9 against the Titans and against the Jaguars. He'll return in Week 11 against the Chargers. But it just, Carlos says the Jags gave up that game. Yeah, okay. That's your young mentality. Okay. But Pickle says 2 game checks. Yeah. I thought he was going to get away with it. But he got arrested twice for having loaded weapons. I thought that was just so idiotic. Just a few months later, no, it's okay. The law don't apply to me. I'm a professional athlete. Don't y'all realize that? None of this stuff applies to me. But apparently it does. And speaking of idiotic athletes and athletes, since I'm on a Jag right now, Antonio Brown, TMZ Sports has learned that Antonio Brown has been ordered to pay a moving truck driver $1.2 million after he allegedly attacked a guy nearly 3 years ago. Greg Allman, who covers the Tampa Bay Bucs, says Antonio Brown's unwillingness to pay a $4,000 bill for a moving company for moving his belongings across the country now has to pay $1.2 million. That was when he, I guess he punched this guy. He punched a moving truck driver that would not deliver his stuff because he wouldn't pay the bill. So now court has ordered him to pay $1.2 million. So now you know what it costs to move your stuff across the country. It could be up to $4,000, but if you knock the guy out near Antonio Brown, it could be $1.2 million. Another genius. But you can't make this stuff up, Pickles. You can't make this stuff up. But these guys think that everything revolves around them. Now, of course, Antonio Brown, Mr. Burn Every Bridge that you get guy, who would be surprised by that? Okay, switching gears. Let me make sure I got everything I covered before I get into this. Okay, in other news, there's a World Series going on. Friday, Houston will play the Philadelphia Phillies, the Houston Astros. Now, I'm going to ask Keith, and hopefully Jack Hirsch will be on the program Thursday. Perhaps he's got something to go to, and he perhaps be on the show Thursday. I asked him about Dusty Baker, but there's another story to this. This guy, Mattress Mac. He's nicknamed Mattress Mac. Now, this is not his name. He is a this guy owns he owns 3 furniture stores out of the Houston, Texas area. I got this from the Outkick website. It says the world's most famous bettor, Mattress Mac, is at it again, and this time he could make some serious cash. The Houston-based mattress company owner, known for his notorious betting big sports wagers throughout the year, only needs the Astros to win 4 games in the World Series to win $75 million off the World Series. Yes, I said it right. If he hits this bet, will become the biggest sports betting win in legal history. According to the Houston Chronicle, Jim McEnbigle, I'll just call him Jim, also known as Mattress Mac. His name's not Mac. I thought it was Mac, but has made multiple 7-figure bets on the Astros to win it all this year. The bets range from as far back as this summer when they were 10-1 to win the World Series to 5-1. And of course, the Astros will face the Phillies in the World Series beginning this Friday. Astros are favored at negative 185 to win it. The Astros are 185 to they're favored to win, essentially. And then it also says, this article, it says not only does he get press when making these wagers, but he gets the attention from his other promotions. For example, he's offering people back money that they spent over $3,000 on sleep sets and furniture from his gallery furniture should the Astros win the World Series. Then it says a few weeks ago, he was offering customers double their money back if the team went on to win it all. Also regularly donates to charity for good causes. He gave away on the 4th of July 200 mattresses to veterans and first responders. In 2021, I remember this, he made headlines for his big bet plus 3.5 on Tampa to win the Super Bowl, and he won $3.46 million. Can you guys believe that? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But he gets national recognition, and I think that the locals see that. It's a big sports town. Houston's a big sports town. Texas is a big sports state. So they see that, and then they think to themselves, well, this is a famous place. This guy's offering deals. He's nationally known. You got guys like Darren Ravel, MGM Bet. You've got bettors around Twitter. You hear people on sports channels talk about it. People like my show talking about it, smaller podcast and whatnot. And it obviously is paying off for him. So if me personally, and one guy says, this was one of the comments. He says, Mattress Mac will save you money. He always has been a gambler. I've shopped at his store. This product is good and is very hands-on businesses. And one guy says he doesn't own a mattress company. He owns 3 incredible furniture stores, and they're all American-made furniture. The quality of the product sells wonderful. That's an interesting story. I don't know how old this guy is, but he looks to be in his 70s, at least 70, 75 years old. I think it's an interesting story. I'll say this. They should win. I mean, I haven't realized, I don't watch a lot of baseball on my program and talk a lot of baseball, but The Astros have swept their way to the World Series. I can't remember last time a baseball team, Major League, and maybe it has, because I don't know. But I can't remember last time that a team swept their way to the World Series. And by the way, their ERA is 1.88 in the postseason. That's the best of anybody by a long shot. 1.88. They won 106 regular season games in the American League. That's only 5 short of the Major League record by the Dodgers. My guess is the American League is traditionally better than the National League over the past 20 years. Look at how many American League times the American League wins the All-Star game. I know the Braves in the National League won last year, but the American League has been dominating. But they just swept a Yankee team with Garrett Cole as their leading ace pitcher. And then they had Aaron Judge, who broke the non-steroid era single-season home run mark. And with Giancarlo Stanton and a boatload of all-stars, the best money can buy, and they swept them. They swept the Yankees. And Pickle says, great hitting and timely, great pitching and timely hitting, that is always what wins it. I haven't watched a lot of baseball over the past 10, 15 years, but I do know one thing that's very common when I read about baseball, especially since we're in the playoffs, is that it is timely hitting and pitching and bullpen. It's bullpen. You know, the Yankees always want to get the big hitters. They want to get the big home run hitters. They want to get the big ace pitchers. But since Mariano Rivera, they've never really had that great closer, and they've never had that bullpen they had in the early 2000s. And Pickle says this guy, Alvarez, I know Verlander's on that team. He's probably not even the top guy. It's going to be an interesting World Series. I don't know how Philly got there. Getting hot at the right time always helps in professional sports. But I would really like to see Mr. Mack win that $75 million. Plus, this is, you think about how much of a microscope that is on this Astros team, Pickles. I mean, with all that cheating scandal going back, what was it, 2017, pitchers getting hit, team getting booed, all that going on going back then. And now you have a chance to do it and do it cleanly. If you think about the eyes that's been on this team. And I read something the other day that they just own the Yankees. They own this Yankee team. And they used to be a National League team. So this is an interesting matchup here. I mean, I like them to win. I think they could perhaps sweep the Phillies. You know, not that I know that much about it. And you know, I may have Jamie Pags here, the Philly sports guy, on at some point, and we will get into the Phillies and whatnot, and talk about the rise of all their sports now. The 76ers, the Eagles are 6-0. And Pickle says that Verlander is pitching like he's 30 years old. And then he says the Phillies are a red hot hitting team. Back in 2002, I want to say that the Angels, they had a really good closer. Middle relief guy and closer. I remember him. Can't remember his name. But they hit their way to a championship. Went through the Yankees, the really good Yankee team. And then they ended up going through a really red hot a Giants team, which I thought that Barry Bonds would hit his would get him a ring, but that didn't happen. They came all the way back, deep in the game. So anything can happen. You know, anything can happen. But I think Houston's going to win. But hey, games aren't played on paper. All right. I got a few more minutes left. Usually I'm running behind, but I will say this. Tomorrow I will get on college football. I just I didn't think I would have enough time really to get into this. I'll say this. Jimbo Fisher, both of those Texas teams are struggling. Those coaches there had some good wins. I think there is some kind of parallel there with this NIL stuff. I know that, and I'll get into it more tomorrow, but we'll do a preview right now. Hopefully Keith Engle can be on, but if he don't, trust me, folks, I've got plenty of material to talk about, particularly in the college football game. There was an incident with 3 freshman players in the locker room after the Texas A&M South Carolina game, I want to say, or it might have been halftime. I can't remember. And these were 5-star guys. We'll get into that. But I think that he's going to have to do – this team does not have enough speed. Coaching seems to be an issue, X's and O's. I still believe in Jimbo Fisher. I think that he's going to make that proper adjustment. And plus, this team has 8 5-star players. 8 5-star players. And that's in their freshman class alone. That doesn't count next year coming up and all that good stuff. So they're the most disappointing team in they're the most disappointing team in major college football, in my opinion, this year. I'd expect them to win a national championship. I expected Alabama to go. I expected Alabama to run the table. They play, yeah. Pickle says this play-to-play kids will blow up on college football. Yeah, I think that it's starting to look that. This is the part where you have to work out the kinks and you have to show these guys that, yes, you're getting paid through NIL, but you still play for me. You still pay for you're not a professional athlete, even though you're getting paid like a professional athlete. I'm still in charge, of the words. And wherever you go, I will tell you, it's still going to be the same thing. You're still going to have to deal with the authority of an authority figure. So there's a maturity issue there, and it's something that's got to be dealt with. And the strong coaches will survive, but these weak coaches, you'll see them get ran over. You'll see it, and they won't last because these teams won't win. And quite frankly, I don't think NIL is as widespread as people think. I think some of these teams are not getting any NIL money, and you're getting more hungry teams that have more chemistry, like who is it, Appalachian State, somebody like that, But anyways, we will get into that tomorrow. It's 58 minutes in. Hopefully have Keith Engle. I've got a basketball story I want to talk about here with Russell Westbrook, another I told you so there. We'll get into that. And again, hopefully I have Jack Hirsch on Thursday, but not. There's plenty of material out there. I just thought I had too much as it is, but I probably could have got in one more story, but I do not like to rush it. But either way, it's the busiest sports month of the year, October, and everything is going to be everything. I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place here on Sports Scope. Thank you, Pickles.